And so I studied about all the things that could give you energy besides working out. And I discovered the sun, the earth, the air, and the water, okay? And I could even include ether into that. So the 4 or 5 elements, depending on how spiritually and woo-woo we want to be. These elements are actually what we're all made of, right? So this tree is a combination of light. It makes energy out of light. It's rooted into the earth. It's taking in water also from the earth and the sky, and it's breathing in air. So everything that we're made of is light, air, earth, and water. And then there's also a function that tells this tree to be in the shape of the tree. And that would be considered ether, okay? It's the morphic field is what the Russian science call it. So we got these 5 elements that makes a tree. Those 5 elements also make us. And so we want to make sure to get those 5 elements in the purest sense. So back to what the sun is and what light is. That ether I talked about, that morphic field, that's in the light. We know that light is a frequency. It's a spectrum of frequencies. Visible light is part of that spectrum, but there's a whole bunch of other frequencies, including heat, that make up light. And if we get out of the fact that light is visible and that it's actually a force that vibrates energy, that makes up everything, I'm going to say something right now that I'm not going to explain, okay? The earth was born out of the sun, and it grows just like we grow, okay? As opposed to the sun being burning like a dust cloud that coalesced into the sun and the leftovers were planets. I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory. I can have conversations about it and with it, but in the purpose of what I'm saying, imagine the sun being an instrument that births planets. I'm just gonna say one more thing. Most stars are binary. 99% of the stars in the universe are binary, meaning 2 stars. Jupiter will eventually grow into a star. Okay, so that's just take the notion. So I said all of that to say that everything on this planet was birthed out of the sun. We are all light. Heat is a version of light. Brandon mentioned infrared. What that means is that anything above absolute zero, the temperature of absolute zero, which is like negative 457. Do you know what it is? Does anyone know? All right, it's like in between negative 450 and 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Anything that's above that is carrying infrared energy, which means it's carrying light. It's just we can't see it. So everything is humming with the spectrum of light, okay? Whether we're above the sun or beneath the sun or the sun's on the other side of the planet itself is light. So what is light? And why is it important for us to be in it? The sun is also traveling around the galaxy, right? And just like we have seasons when the earth travels around the sun, there's seasons when the sun travels around the galaxy. And these seasons aren't about hot or cold. It's more about energy, okay? So there's different energetic seasons in the galaxy. And as the sun that's traveling through the galaxy is going very, 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 very fast, these energies are changing and shifting a little bit. And we're at a point now, you guys heard of this 2012 thing, right? Going from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age, the Mayan calendar ending, like all of this stuff is happening right now. It's a critical time, and it's all referring to these energies of the sun going through the galaxy. If you guys look into Mayan calendar, Aztec calendar, Chinese calendars, even things like the zodiac, these are calendars that are hundreds of thousands or thousands of years long. So why is it that people used to keep calendars more than just 1 year that we do? One time around the sun of our earth is the extent of how we keep track of change on this planet. But there's a lot of change that happens besides that, like the sun going around the galaxy. So as the sun does that, it's being influenced differently. It's being influenced with this different morphic field that tells the planet, which is a child of the sun, how to be, okay? So this is being told how to be. Our planet also has its own field that is being affected by the light of the sun. So on a daily basis, there's different codes coming in from that light source, and it's coming down to our planet, and it's affecting everybody here. with that said, all right, so that's a little baseline of what light is. It's information. It's coming in the form of geometrical, energetic information that's telling the processes on the planet how to behave and how to develop. So what does that mean for us as humans? So I'm gonna go all the way back to when we were just a bunch of cells inside of our mom's womb, okay? I know this is college, it's been about 20 years. Well, I started going to college 20 years ago, so it's been, and then that was 6 years of that. So it's been 15 years since I've been in a college campus. So you guys might know what I'm talking about a little bit more than I do. But when when the sperm enters the egg and then it turns into a zygote, I think is the name, and then that breaks into 2 cells and then 4 cells and then 8 cells, and eventually you're just a bunch of cells and they're all the same. Eventually those cells turn into different types of cells. So we've got the germ layers, right? The meso, ecto, and endo. And these different germ layers become the different parts of your body. So the ectoderm becomes your brain, your nerves, and the outer layer of skin. The endo, so the endo cells become your organs, okay? And then the meso becomes your bones and your muscles. So we got that? So I say that because your outer skin layer and your hair is the same cells. They're made up of the same cells that your nerves and your brain are. And so when we look at the skin, when the scientist looks at the skin and says, oh, highly melanated individuals have greater sun protection than lower melanated individuals, that's true. But what exactly does that mean? Is melanin the only thing, is the only job of melanin to block the sun? That doesn't make sense given the information I just said about what light is. The body would have to have some sort of receptive mechanism for this light, right? The body would have to receive the light, not just block it out. When we actually start looking into the highly melanated cultures, they act differently also. And it's a stereotype for sure. We got highly melanated individuals are more connected to each other. They're more rhythmic. They dance better. They're better athletes. Okay? These things, they're more human. They're more powerful. Okay? From a human standpoint. And the Egyptian sciences, the Egyptian occult, magic, all of this stuff was stolen long time ago and basically translated by British rule to rule the earth. And we hear about like the Mayan calendar. We hear about all these like ancient occult societies, but we don't really hear much about Egyptian stuff or African stuff. Well, we do hear about Egyptian stuff, but we don't really hear much about African stuff. But that's where it all started, guys. That's where humans were supposed to have been born from. All right, I went off on a little bit of tangent about melanin. So what is melanin? Melanin coats the skin. It's in the hair and it's in the eyes. And Brandon also mentioned that the eyes bring in light and it goes to the pineal gland. So melanin is in the nerves and it's in the brain also. And what melanin in our skin is doing is it's grabbing onto the light and it's bringing it into our nervous system and into our brain, and then it's telling our body how to behave. And it's telling it through the process of the pineal gland. If you guys Google what does melatonin do, which sounds a lot like melanin, melatonin is produced by the pineal gland. So is serotonin, which makes us happy, okay? Which is interesting because serotonin is also produced in the gut, where we receive life force energy also, and that's what makes us blissful. So during the day, when we're getting light on our skin, the melanin is taking the light into our nervous system, into our brain. Our pineal gland, when we go to sleep, is then producing melatonin, and melatonin is going to our cells. And everyone knows that melatonin is a very restorative hormone. Even though if you Google what does melatonin do, science and the doctors will say, we don't know. But it gets produced when you sleep. It literally will say the effects of melatonin are unknown. decreased melatonin is unknown on what it will do to the human body. So leave it up to me, who's just been studying humans my entire life. I'm just going to make it up as I see. I'm going to observe and reflect, which is actually the original foundation of science. I'm observing what I know to be true, and I'm reflecting on it. What I think is happening, what I know to be true, is that the body's taking in light through melanin. It's going into our nervous system. It's coming up to the pineal gland. The pineal gland is sending out melatonin with the light codes that go to all of our cells and say, hey, good job today. You dealt with a lot of stress and anxiety. You dealt with a lot of 5G. You dealt with a lot of breathing and pollution. Here's the codes that I have from the light source. Recalibrate yourself to this. And that's what's making us better when we sleep. Okay? It all comes down to light. If you guys had like a pet lizard with a little dot on their head, you guys might, if you just remember what like a gecko looks like, or an iguana, they have this little triangle shaped, it's actually an octahedron shaped dot on top of their head. That's their pineal gland. It's on the outside of their body. And that pineal gland is receiving light and making these decisions inside the body. The circadian rhythm, all of like when to mate, all of these things are done through the pineal gland. Our pineal gland's in the middle of our brain. So sun gazing at sunset or sunrise, this is a very ritualistic thing to do in many societies, ancient and present. And that's because you're receiving what many religions call God. You're receiving life force, prana, ki, chi, whatever morphic field. You're receiving all of that from the sun in its pure state when you're looking at it. It's very powerful during the day, but when it's about here, it's natural. We need to think about things in naturality, okay? These shoes are not natural, I know that. I was gonna take them off, but there's glyphosate sprayed on this entire park, so I didn't want to get chemicals in my body. We need to look at how the human environment is. At sunset and sunrise, where is the sun? It's literally right in front of your face. So if we didn't have these buildings here, every single sun, if I was talking to you guys and the sun was setting there, 100% of you guys, minus the trees, would be looking directly into the sun, right? We can agree on that. So without the buildings, watching the sunset and the sunrise would be something that would just be happening 50% of your time. Either you're facing away from the sun or you're facing towards the sun, and we would be moving around all the time. Sunlight. And so this recalibration of light within our cellular body is something that's necessary. Now, why is it important to us? It's important to us because there are buildings. We are looking in phone screens. And that's either blocking the light or putting another version of light into our eyeballs. Okay? So this is where it all comes useful, because you guys are all in college. You guys are all human beings in North America, and we look at our screens much of the day. Now, what does that mean? I call the screen light fast food light. Any light that's coming off a light bulb in your house, that's fast food light. Okay, it's literally the same thing. Like I said, this is light, air, earth, and water. If we eat proper food that is the purest source of light, air, earth, and water, then that's good for us. If we eat food sources like McDonald's that's not entirely pure and there's added man-made chemicals into that, then that fast food version of that doesn't process in our body properly. If we're doing the same thing with our light source, that light is going to our pineal gland, producing melatonin, and now we've got some drunk version of light going to our cells and be like, hey, here's the new codes for tomorrow, like, because it's not that. All of the light in our houses are made to see, okay? It's all made to see. If you guys look at a light spectrum graph, the visible light spectrum is like this compared to what the frequency of light actually is. So the light bulbs in our house are concerned with one little part of the spectrum, but the rest of it's still feeding information. And they're not even testing what the other stuff is. They're just like, oh, we got a little bit of this light's more blue, this light's more orange. They're just looking at this. We don't know what the effects of the other stuff is doing to us. Not to mention every single light bulb comes through glass, which breaks the light even more. So if we're gonna suntan, if we're gonna sun gaze, don't do it through glass. Glass breaks light.